Hello, hello. This is a higher logic site. There was a question in Hug about changing our logo link, the link that's on the logo. And I thought I would do this recording just because I've gotten this question or request before. And generally, it's not. I mean, higher logic would tell you it's not a best practice to change the link on your logo to go to a site other than your higher logic homepage, just because it can confuse users. So if I'm a user going throughout this site, this community, I may be clicking on the logo thinking I'm going back to the community homepage. Um, but so if you change that all of a sudden to go to your main site or some other site, that can cause some confusion. But if you have some kind of global menu system that you're putting in across multiple sites, that may be why you want to do that. Talking to marketing departments, they want like a lot of consistency, so sometimes they'll try to have one header across multiple sites with one menu system, and they want that consistency. But in the end, Higher Logic is a separate portal. It has its separate information architecture, the menu system, in other words. So it's best to keep your community branded as a separate portal and just figure out a way to get users from your main site into the community and make it clear to the user that they are in a separate community site, and then give them a way to get back to the main site. So in my top links up here, I don't have anything here right now, but I could add something that says click here to go back to our main site. But anyway, so we've had that question, and thanks to Tirza for pointing that out to me. And so if you're new at Higher Logic, you probably starting to realize you don't actually have access to the underlying theme files. Higher Logic actually does not have like a theme system. So if you just wanted to change, so I found like our logo, here's the A element with the href going to UG test. That's the URL of this site. But we want to change it. Normally, if I could get into a theme editor in another CMS, this would be a very quick change. There's no theme editor system in Higher Logic. Actually, they call it theme editor in the admin, but it's actually just a CSS editor. They call it theme editor, but there's no way to get into the HTML. So this is a customization. Higher Logic is not going to recommend you do what I'm about to do. So because I have no access to the HTML, I have access to the CSS, but the link on an A element, you cannot change that with just CSS. So we actually need to change the code. So we can do that with JavaScript. And luckily, Higher Logic does leverage the jQuery library, so we can write a quick script that will change the behavior of this A element by changing the href attribute to be whatever we want. And just minimize that. Now the HTML, I don't like Higher Logic's HTML in the header. It's lots of divs. Div. And I have a feeling, by the way, I think Higher Logic is going to modernize this HTML at some point. So something to keep in mind. You may want to make your header CSS changes kind of simple, because all this HTML, I have a feeling it is going to change soon and just kind of be modernized. It's very legacy. I think most of these divs have been used since like day one. When they upgraded to Bootstrap, they kept everything in place pretty much, like this desktop logo div, which by the way loads on mobile also, I believe. So I'm not sure why they call it desktop logo div, but there's not like a consistent naming convention for all this stuff. So it's different from module to module or from widget to widget sometimes, but when they upgraded to Bootstrap, they kept everything in place, but then added these Bootstrap classes like colmd12. We see that a lot, and usually there's a row directly above that. And so we've got nested rows inside other columns and rows. I have a feeling that they're going to be redoing this just to clean it up and make it easier to style. But anyway, we're just concerned about our link in here. And usually I'm going to write some jQuery here. I think we normally want to hook onto some kind of ID in this case. So I'm going to use logo, div ID logo, and then there's just one A, because I have a feeling if they come up with like mobile logo div, this may change. So I don't want to hook onto desktop. It just seems kind of dangerous to hook onto that. So I'm just going to write a script hooking onto the div ID logo and the A element. And let's see, I'm just going to, and actually just to test out, you may just want to test this out on one page. But I'm in the old admin, by the way, so your site may look a little different. Let me just go back here. Okay, I've got a ton of hidden stuff on this page, but I'll just go into my welcome. Or no, actually, sorry. I'm going to make a new element. And if you want to test out a script, I would recommend testing it on a single page before you apply it to your entire site. So I'm just going to call this JavaScript changed logo link. And then I'll turn this into a JavaScript item embedded in line. I can finally write some jQuery without copying and pasting from somewhere. But so let's see, I've got my logo A. So anytime I run into this logo div and then have an A element, I'm just going to change the href. So I'm going to do attribute ref, and I'm going to change that to google.com. So instead of my home page, it's going to go to Google, or I'll just tell it to go to, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. And if I did that correctly, okay, so that's the first content item. I can hit view my page. If I click my logo, I can see I've changed it now to go to Google. That's good. Now that's only on one page though. That's just on my home page. So if I was going to put that across my entire site, I would go to theme setup, layout. You're going to want that to apply, and because it's applying to the header, you can actually just insert that top of the content. It's just applying to the logo and the header, so we can have it render quickly right at the above our content. So if I go back to navigation, take my home item, I'm going to change logo. Oh, and by the way, you cannot copy and paste content items in the new admin. That's kind of why I'm still on the old admin in my sandbox here. But so anyway, I'm going to cut that, and I've already set up a page. Ink top of content. I'm going to paste that. And then I need to set ink top of content to be part of that site-wide include. So I'll go back to site setup, layout. Green top of content, ink, top of content, finish. If I go back here, let me make sure that's still working. Okay. And then if I go to this about page, I can see, okay, it's still. So now I've made that JavaScript apply to every page in my whole site. And this is kind of a customization. Higher Logic will not recommend you do that again, but you can, with JavaScript, change the link to that is wrapping around your logo. And by the way, when you get into these customizations, even with custom CSS, especially custom JavaScript, Higher Logic, they will not support any of these changes. So if something suddenly goes wrong, you're kind of on your own. They'll only give you a limited amount of support if you do something to break your site or just break a layout. This is the type of customization they don't recommend because they do not support it. So it helps if you know some JavaScript and can do it on your own and support it on your own. And thank you for viewing the joy of theming. That's what I call this this show here. So I just wanted to document some of these changes because I'll get like the same questions over and over again. And also, I'm working on the community for the Community Managers Union. This is just placeholder logo. If anyone has an idea for the design, you can submit a new logo. We're open to new logos. We want maybe even kind of a symbol, something that represents community managers. And the winning design will receive a year's membership to the Community Managers Union. They can't pay out a cash prize, but there is they can give a 1-year membership. So if you have a design, you can post it in the Designer's Corner on Hub.